What's going on, people? In this video we're about to break down episode 18 of Attack on Titan season 4, in which the Beast Titan finally joined the battle against Marley. The title of this new episode was Sneak Attack, and today I'll be talking about everything I felt needed explaining, including why the scouts are helping the Yeagerists, the significance of Gabby ripping Falco's armband, and the problem with Yelena's face. To get straight into it, the episode begins where we left off last week, with Armin theorizing that maybe Eren doesn't believe in Zeke's euthanization plan, and that he's just using his brother so he can protect the island with the rumbling. If that was the case, it would give the scouts a solid reason to go out and help him, but with the limited information they have right now, they can't be 100% sure that Eren is on their side. Despite this lack of certainty, in the end they do decide to take a chance and save him, because they each have their own reasons for not wanting him to die. In John's case, a funny detail was that he revealed he was actually jealous of Eren at one point, and to be honest, this isn't something he hid very well. Whether it was Eren's close relationship with Mikasa, or him being a Titan shifter, or the fact that his goals were more noble, at least in the beginning, there was always one reason or another for John to get jealous, so you can begin to understand why they used to fight so often. Anyway, as they go to free the remaining soldiers and get suited up, Mikasa wonders why Eren would try to push them away if his true intention is to betray Zeke. After all, if he's really on their side, then surely he wouldn't need to be this aggressive if he was only pretending, and at this point in the episode, Armin has a flashback to 3 years ago. Back then, when they first made it to the ocean, Eren asked if they'd be free if they killed all their enemies across the sea, and I guess the key phrase to highlight here is all their enemies. The reason Armin thinks of this flashback is because if Eren seriously wanted to kill everyone outside the island, then that would explain why he'd want to have distance between him and his childhood friends. An act of violence on this scale is something that's never been done in human history, so by Eren pushing them away, neither Armin or Mikasa would bear any of the responsibility or the guilt for his actions. That being said, Armin basically changes the subject to Mikasa's headaches. Earlier in the episode, she mentioned how these headaches were evidence of her lacking free will, since Eren claimed Ackermans only get these when their true self is trying to resist their programming. His point was that Mikasa only wants to protect him because her DNA is forcing her to, but Armin argues that Eren was lying and used his pre-existing knowledge about the headaches to make this lie seem more legit. The two of them then agree to simply ask him about it once everything is over, and the scene cuts to above ground where the man himself is quite literally fighting for his life. Having already been shot in the head by Magath and stabbed through the shoulder with a spike of his own hardening, the Attack Titan still relentlessly tries to win the fight. He gets the Armored Titan to back off by triggering another set of spikes out the ground, and Reiner himself even starts to wonder what Eren is fighting for and why he keeps on struggling. The answer to that question is that besides having an unusual level of willpower, Eren knows that once he horizons Shiganshina like they agreed, the simple act of them making contact would win the battle. That's why it was smart of him to stay and fight instead of trying to escape like Yelena wanted him to, since the odds would instantly shift in their favour once his brother gets there. We then get this hilarious sequence of Galliard pouncing onto Eren only to get slapped halfway across Shiganshina, and if I was Porco, I'd just give it up at this point, because when it comes to this matchup, he can't ever seem to deal the finishing blow. Luckily for the Warriors, Reiner catches the Attack Titan off guard only a few seconds later, and as he pins Eren down, he thinks to himself how he just wants this to be done. From the start of the season, Reiner has had the aura of someone who is mentally exhausted by the constant fighting and suffering that he's been through, which is why he can't understand why Eren continues to fight despite all the odds being against him. The Attack Titan demonstrates his persistence again by grabbing the Warrior's upper jaw and just using brute force to try and rip it off, and considering he's the one being pinned down, this is a pretty impressive feat of strength. The scream he let out while doing it was so loud that it almost acted like an SOS signal, since Zeke and the remaining Yeagerists had just made it back to the wall. The Beast Titan then reintroduces himself by launching a pitching assault directly at Reiner's head, and amazingly, this isn't even the first time he's wrecked the Armored Titan in Shiganshina. Following that, he takes out chunks of hardening from the wall and sends it flying towards Marley's airships, and the destruction of these ships is a big deal, because it means the forces on the ground have one less thing to worry about. What was really impressive about this moment though was that after doing 2 pitching assaults in a row, Zeke was already geared up to do a third, which he directed at the Cart Titan. In this scene, the most important thing for the Beast was that he launched this shot before Magath had a chance to fire the anti-Titan cannon, otherwise this fight might have been over there and then. As you can tell, Magath was desperate to punish Zeke for betraying Marley, and I think a lot of his resentment comes from the fact that as the former head of the warrior unit, he never once realized that Zeke was secretly working against them. It is true to say that he did consider Zeke to be a mysterious person, but still, I imagine it hurts him to know that this betrayal happened from someone that he allowed to become a warrior. Anyhow, with the Cart Titan hanging off the wall and the Yeagerists approaching, Pieck had no other option but to run. It's actually implied that they chased her around nearly the whole length of Shiganshina, since here she was on Zeke's left side, but by the end of the episode she was on his right side, meaning she likely would have gone the long way around. A weakened Eren then starts limping towards his brother so they can make contact, while on the ground Gabby and Colt decide to go and find Falco. Although Colt didn't want her to come, Gabby was on a mission to repay her fellow warrior candidate, since the only reason Falco is in a cell with Zeke's spinal fluid inside him is because he kept saving her on different occasions. Inside the cell, he has a conversation with Niall, who's another person that's been contaminated, and in this moment it seemed like he accepted he's not going to see his family again. Unlike Erwin, who's willing to abandon this idea of having a family to pursue his dream, Niall always considered his wife and daughters to be the most important thing, hence why he took that stand against the nobles in season 3. For that reason, it is especially heartbreaking that he's been put in this situation, but later in the episode, Niall at least did what he could to reunite Falco with his family. As the scouts and the yeagers free more and more prisoners, Pixis begins to organize them, and he decides that those without black armbands will get what's left of the ODM gear, while those with the armbands will fight on the front lines. This was the most logical way of doing things, considering that, people with the armbands could be titanized by Zeke at any time, so it'd be a waste of equipment to give them ODM gear, only for them to then become pure titans. As a side note, Instructor Shardis made his first appearance since Flock had him beaten up by the cadets, but due to his injuries that may or may not actually be bear related, he told Connie to go on without him. In the changing room, Mikasa gets suited up for battle with her number one fan Louise, and as she mentions, they are now fighting for similar goals again. The last time these two interacted, Louise was in a cell after helping Flock and the Jaegerists to leak information, but since then the political situation has obviously flipped, with the old leaders of the island either being dead or not doing so great. An interesting detail is that Mikasa chose to leave her scarf behind, and this could mean a couple of things. For example, it could be because she's still questioning whether her attachment to Eren is of her own free will, or perhaps she just left it because she's still seriously hurt by him saying he hated her. Either way, it's clear that regardless of whether Eren was telling the truth about these things, he still succeeded in creating distance between them by making Mikasa doubt her own feelings. On the outside, Yelena is genuinely the happiest person on the island, because as far as she's concerned, this is about to be the moment when the euthanization plan becomes a reality. The scouts themselves then come out at just the right time to get a good view of everything, and John starts to question what happened to Levi and Hanji. He knew the captain would have never let Zeke go of his own free will, and Yelena correctly assumes that the Beast Titan defeated him, although to be fair, he was super lucky not to have died in the process. Now, in spite of this, Armin tries to motivate everyone to help the Yaeger brothers make contact, since he believes more than anyone else that Eren is secretly on their side. In Armin's head, he thinks that Eren will trigger a small rumbling using the Titans in Shiganshina, whereas obviously Yelena believes that the first thing Eren will do is remove the ability of Eldians to reproduce. Although they do think different things will happen, they do essentially still have the same goal, which is to reunite Eren and Zeke, hence why Armin wants to actively help the Jaegerists. We then get this moment from Yelena where she pulls one of the weirdest faces we've seen from either a Titan or a human. In fact, it was so terrifying that Mikasa actually went to grab her sword. In terms of the reason behind why she pulled this face, there are two reasons here. Firstly, there's the real life reason, which is that I kind of think this moment was meant to be a jump scare kind of thing. And the second reason is that Yelena was trying to figure out Armin's true intentions. Prior to this, Armin cried when she told him about the euthanization plan, and although he tried to pretend like he was in favor of it, in his own mind he clearly thought that Eren would never go along with it. Therefore, it's possible that Yelena wasn't really sure if she believed that he was being genuine, but now having stared deep into his soul, she has faith that he is really on her side. Moving down to ground level, Colt and Gabby were on the search for Falco, and the eldest warrior candidate was armed with both a regular rifle and an anti-titan rifle. This rifle is good for killing pure titans if you can get a direct hit on the nape, but when it comes to shifters it's highly unlikely to do any damage, evidenced by this brief exchange earlier in the episode. As they continue to search the streets, Colt and Falco then catch a glimpse of each other, and like I mentioned earlier, Niall willingly reunites the two brothers. What was interesting about this interaction was that Colt was bracing himself to shoot Niall because he didn't really have a choice, but it was Gabby who instinctively held him back. If this had happened a month ago, she probably would have grabbed the gun and taken the shot herself, so this moment here really puts into perspective how much she's changed. Her experience with the Brass family caused her to realize that Eldians here weren't the island devils she was told about, because they still showed her compassion even after finding out she killed Sasha. This gradually led to Gabby feeling guilt about Sasha's death for the first time, and in this episode the same thing happens again when she overhears the Brass family talking. It wasn't long until Gabby then began confessing everything she'd realized, but she did acknowledge that Falco and Reiner already knew this stuff. In the spirit of confessing things, Falco himself then admitted his responsibility in helping Eren to orchestrate the attack on Liberia, But the real plot twist here is that he finally revealed his true feelings about Gabby. His motivation to become a warrior and inherit the Armored Titan was always rooted in his desire for Gabby to have a long life, which is similar to how Eren and Marcel did what they could to stop people they loved from becoming Titan shifters. In any case, Falco made these confessions since he wanted to get it out in the open before he's Titanized, which leads to Gabby aggressively ripping off the armband. The significance of her doing this goes way beyond the fact that she wants to save him, and I'll explain why. Back in Liberia, she talked about how everything she'd worked for was to prove that Eldians from Marley were good people, unlike the devils on Paradise, and her aim was to create a world where they could be proud to wear these armbands. Since then, her worldview has completely changed, and based on what she knows now, it's clear that these bits of cloth shouldn't define a person. Yelena even admitted that the black armbands were an idea inspired by Marley, so Gabby ripping it off in this way is basically a symbol of her overcoming the prejudice she used to have. Anyway, the warrior candidates head off to find Zeke, since Colt believes his former mentor might choose not to scream if he realizes that Falco drank the spinal fluid. Meanwhile, Eren continues to drag himself towards his brother as the beast provides support, with Galliard getting taken out for the 100th time this season. To Zeke's right hand side, the remains of the Cart Titan made it seem like Pieck was killed by Floch and the Jaegerists, and there's a good reason why he looks so upset in this moment. It's worth remembering that these two spent 5 years together in Marley while the other warriors were on Paradise, so they do have a strong history that's not been explored that much. However, in this situation, Pieck's supposed death was a fake out that enabled Marley to have this sneak attack, cause like any other shifter, if the user fully exits the body, then the Titan will start to disappear. By doing this simple trick, Pieck managed to fool everyone into thinking she'd been defeated, giving them one chance to catch the Beast Titan by surprise. A plan like this only works because it means that everyone else puts their guard down, and Magath took advantage by firing the cannon through Zeke's back. If we pause on this screenshot, you can see he took a massive chunk from around the neck area, but this sneak attack wasn't accurate enough to kill the man inside. Regardless, what this has done is create a situation where Eren is no longer protected by the pitching assault, meaning in the next episode, Reiner may possibly have a clearer path to stopping him. Unfortunately for Falco, with the Yaeger brothers now being in this tricky position, the best way for Zeke to defend them is with an army of pure Titans. That's why as the episode ends, Magath's main priority is to quickly finish him off with a second shot, since if he summons a horde of Titans, then the entire battle will change in a second. Anyway people, that was my breakdown for episode 18 of Attack on Titan Season 4, and if you liked it then I'd appreciate if you hit that sub button, and let me know your thoughts down below. Until the next one, peace out.